gives me great pleasure to be here in front of you in the fantastic city of Manila. We're here in this new facility at Shangri-La. And you heard a lot of my co-presenters over yesterday, today morning in the couple of sessions that we had prior to mine, in the breakout sessions through the afternoon of yesterday, and we will see more in the afternoon of today. I'm going to go talk about keeping in sync with the future-ready theme. I'm going to go talk about enabling the future-ready workforce from a client solutions perspective or from an end-user computing perspective, whatever you may want to go back and call it. We will not spend a lot of time talking about products. What we will talk about is how does Dell differentiate using the future-ready theme in terms of what it does and how it builds its devices, how it builds its devices for you as end users, how it builds its devices for you when you are your IT managers, your CIOs, your CTOs, and you have your end users within your organizations. What is it that Dell does that differentiates it from the rest? So that's largely going to be the theme for this discussion. That's largely going to be the theme for this conversation. Some elements of it were talked about yesterday in one of the earlier presentations. So you will see some slides that are repetitive. But again, I want to make sure that I do justice to the content here. I will not talk about exactly what was presented, but we will try and see how we give you a slightly more different perspective to the same theme. I will start off with two quotes. The first quote you see here, which is from our Vice Chairman of the Client Solutions Group and our President for the Operations, Vice Chairman for Operations and President of Client Solutions, Jeff Clark, and he says, technology is no longer a secondary business function, but a mission critical for business success. The second quote, and you don't see that here, is from our founder and from our chairman, Michael Dell. And one of the quotes that he went and he said in a user forum a while back was, if you are not end-to-end, you are the end. And what that pretty much means is we are one of those few technology providers that offer you solutions right from the edge of the network to which is typically your endpoint solutions, right to the data center. And while you will see a lot of other technology providers moving away from that theme, we have always maintained our status around purely being the end-to-end provider, being the one-stop shop for each and every one of you when you come and look at your commodity devices, when you look at your endpoint solutions, when you look at your data solutions, when you look at your networking solutions or storage solutions and so on. IT's come a long way. It's evolved. It's evolved significantly through the years. Yet there is a divide that still exists between IT and innovation. It seems a little startling, but it is true that only about 34% of the companies are taking advantage of using IT as a source of innovation, which means there is almost 2/3 of the industry where we have an opportunity to still do more, to still do better, to still evolve. And as we go through this theme of evolution, you will need and you will see that there are the needs that are significantly changing. As a CIO, as a CTO, as the IT manager, as the channel that serves the end user, your role is redefined. It's no longer what it was, even as recent as 5 years back, because the responsibilities are very different. You're expected to manage the essentials, which is look at how do I keep my lights on, how do I keep the business running. There is the hardware updates, there is the reduction of costs, there is protection of data, security, manageability, reliability, etc. And there's also this whole theme of accelerating the business to the next level. delivering ubiquitous mobility, implementing and taking everything to the cloud, leveraging big data, and managing and mitigating risks. So in an environment like today, where do you typically start? Where do we typically start? You start with the end user, just like we start with the end user, which is you. You start with the end user, which is typically the organization that you serve. Either your own organization in terms of the users or your customer organizations if you're a partner. And what are the questions that you go back and ask yourself to see whether you are really at the forefront of technology? And some of the questions that you see are questions that you should be asking yourself. Does the technology support the modern workplace? Are employees invigorated by the devices that they are using at work? And that's an extremely important point, because studies have revealed that a lot of the choice of the new university graduates when they come out from the top-notch engineering colleges, from the top-notch management institutions, they are looking at joining companies that are at the forefront of technology in terms of offering their own internal folks with cutting-edge technology. So how do you go back and do that? So you need to go back and ask, are my users invigorated? Are my users excited by the devices that we are giving them? Are we giving them cutting-edge technology? Are we enabling them to be more productive? Are we enabling them to be productive yet efficient? Has technology been refreshed to drive increased productivity and security? Do specialty workers have the right device for the jobs they are performing? And lastly, obviously, everybody is worried about security. It goes into the common theme that we have today, are my devices secure? Dell's commissioned quite a few surveys, workforce studies over the last few years, and some of the outcomes of those studies are what you see here. The world is changing. Today, nobody's looking at a job as a 9-to-5 job. I'm sitting at my desk. It's an evolving. Everybody is looking at saying, here's what I need to go deliver. But what is not important is where you're delivering it from. What is not important is how you're going back and delivering it. So people are not looking at jobs as 9 to 5. I come in the morning at 9, I swipe my badge. I leave at 5 p.m. sharp, I swipe my badge again. They are pretty much looking at it very differently. I could be anywhere. I could be working from home. I could be working from Starbucks. I could be working from my client's place. A lot of us spend a lot of time even working from home, taking calls, depending on the nature of our jobs, very late in the evenings, at nights. But that's the nature of the work. That's the nature of how the world's coming together, and everybody is looking at things differently. So some of the stats here look very different, and probably surprising to some, not surprising to the others. But it is a reality. 59% less office space is being accorded to users. So we don't have the luxury of bigger cubicles, bigger offices. Everybody's trying to economize. 52% of the people believe that employees working from home can just be about as productive, if not more, than they're working from the workplace. And think about it. Did our managers, did our management actually embrace this comment maybe 10 years back? The answer would probably be no. Working from home was taboo. People did not find that receptive. Are they being efficient? Are they being effective? The answer was, people would frown. It wouldn't be looked upon at a very welcoming manner. But things have changed. Things have evolved over the period of time. The devices that people have enables them to be productive just about anywhere. 2 hours, that's about the time people spend in a public place, whether it's in a coffee shop having coffee and working, in a McDonald's having lunch and working. 4 hours is at an external location which is out from their homes. So very different stats. 50% of the employees check work or email or take work calls from their homes or late in the evenings. 78% of the employees work in highly regulated industries, the highest usage for free file sharing services. So very different statistics. And when Dell designs its devices, its endpoint devices, a lot of these statistics is what we keep in our mind. That's the kind of usage patterns that we are looking at. That's the kind of end users that we are looking at. And our devices that we are putting together and bringing to you are keeping in mind the workforce trends that we see here. I talked about security, so I'll not spend a whole lot of time on that, but yes, it is a big concern for a lot of us. We do say 70% of the data is unstructured, and that's true. It resides in many places. It's managed by the end users. They bring their own apps. They bring their own devices. They are targeted by, they're targeted by malware. They are creating their own company data. So there's a lot of that's happening. But the solutions that we have are fragmented and proprietary, but what you will see, what Dell brings to you, are solutions that takes care of a whole other things in a manner that's significantly efficient. How do you address the business needs, user preferences, and security concerns with solutions that are built for the way your users work? That's what I mentioned. That's the key theme of how Dell's been designing devices over the last several years. We are keeping in mind these usage patterns. We are keeping in mind, and hence you will see devices more and more that are evolving and appealing to the users, that you carry your device with pride, because it is the device that keeps you connected. It is the device that makes you productive. When we design our solutions, what are they based on? They're based on a lot of conversations that we have. Dell has about 1 billion conversations each year, and these are conversations that are happened through analyst conferences, market research, customer advisory councils, where we go and sit in with each and every one of you. We continue to invest in customer research, the Global Evolving Workforce Survey. The statistics that I showed you earlier were an outcome of this customized research that was conducted by Dell. And the evolution of all of this has led to 5 employee personas. These are the 5 proprietary user personas that we look at when we go back and design our endpoint devices. You saw this slide yesterday too. So these are the 5 personalities, the 5 personas that we look at. You got the desk-centric. You got the corridor warrior. So desk-centric is someone who's spending a lot of time in the office at his workplace. You got the corridor warrior, someone who's spending a lot of time away from his desk. You've got the on-the-go professional, someone who works 50% of the time away from his workplace. He's spending a lot of the time on the road. He's spending a lot of the time traveling. He's probably spending a lot of the time with his end customers, depending on the nature of his work. You've got the remote user, the one who rarely comes into work, works from home, typically goes, meets the end user, goes back home again, and probably comes into the office once a week. That's his typical check-in points. Or you've got the specialized user, someone who's in a very niche area. He's in engineering design. He's in the healthcare or hospitality industry. He's at the point of sales. So those are the kind of areas, personas that we look at. And that's what differentiates the Dell approach from what our competitors do in terms of how we go back and look at our end user computing portfolio. How do we look at our client solutions portfolio? How do we design our devices? How do we bring those devices to you? Some of you would have entered and joined the breakout session yesterday. You will join the breakout session today. You will learn more about those devices. There is a booth right outside this hall where you can kind of step in and look at those devices and feel them for yourselves. I'm not going to go talk about the devices. I want you to leave behind with why Dell, why does it differentiate, and what is it that Dell does that cuts us from the rest. So as we looked at the 5 personas, you will also see those 5 personas built into the devices that we have. The desktops, the workstations, the devices meant for the desk-centric user. Cloud client computing, meant for the desk-centric user. The Corridor Warrior, the On the Pro, the remote user, you've got bunch of the mobility devices. The traditional form factor around laptops, the more innovative form factor around the detachables or the convertibles in terms of two-in-ones. And you will see a lot of these devices coming in more and more as part of our portfolio as the portfolio continues to evolve. Collaborative solutions around conference room ecosystems, PC integration, projectors, networks, displays units, etc. And purpose-built, which is typically the precision workstations, meant for the engineering users, meant for people that are looking at the highest end of compute power. People that are looking at even tablets, people that are looking at customized solutions, point of sale, retail, hospitality, healthcare, and so on and so forth. So the whole objective is to have the right device for the work that each individual is doing. And the whole portfolio is what you see here. A lot of these devices you will see outside. They're there for you to touch, to feel, to see. And obviously, a lot of my team members are there that will walk you through the features. So the intent here is not to go back and talk about what the features are. The intent here is to go back and tell you that the portfolio that we have today pretty much caters end-to-end to the 5 user personas, which pretty much should cover the entire subset of user profiles and choices that we have. And what are some of the proof points for why we, and the results that we are seeing? So there are some very key proof points. CES 2 years in a row. 2015 CES, Dell won about 40 plus awards. And these were all built around our consumer devices. The XPS 13, a lot of you would have seen. And 2016 CES, which is earlier this year in January, where again Dell won about 45 awards, 9 of them were innovation awards. And these were all our commercial devices. These were the Latitudes, the Infinity Edge displays. These were the Alienwares. So a mix of commercial devices, a mix of consumer devices, but largely the portfolio was all commercial centric, all catered to users like yourselves. So that's one key proof point of the success of the story that we have. And some proof points very closer home in terms of the region that we are in. We are the fastest growing amongst the top 6 vendors in our region. We are ranked number 2 in commercial, and we have gained share in 7 out of the last 10 quarters. Back home in Philippines, we have gained share 2x over the last 8 quarters. So we are twice the size of what we were 2 years back. And these are all proof points that the approach that we are having, the devices that we are producing, the devices that we are giving to you are devices that are appealing. Notebooks, we are growing 3x faster than the industry, than the closest vendor. Desktops, we are number 1 out of 3 in 5 quarters in commercial desktops. Displays, we have been number 1 4 quarters in a row. All proof points that tell us that our strategy is working. All proof points where I go back and say to each and every one of you, thank you for the endorsement. Thank you for making the